everybody, welcome back to the channel and more Birthright here as we continue our series looking at the Anshe. It's been a minute since we did the Gorgon, so now we're moving on, taking a look at another infamous one. Still very, very powerful, but obviously not on the Gorgon's power scale. And that is the Hag, and if you look, yeah, it's just some disturbing artwork there, but yeah, that gives you an idea for the Hag here. So let's jump in. So as with the others, there's always this theme here of like someone actually like interviewing these monsters, and then we get into some of the other details of them. So we start off here. Well, my pretty, I used to be pretty. I used to be beautiful. Men from across Australia knew of my beauty and sought my favors. Would they like my kisses now, do you think? It's nice to have someone to talk to, I suppose, after all these years. Oh yes, the men stopped coming when I began to exert my abilities. It cost me, yes, it cost me everything. I had, but look at what I have now. My own land, my powers, and eternal life. That's right, I'll live forever, forever. And you, pretty? Why, your warm skin is already starting to cool. But don't worry, pretty, you'll be around a little longer. Pretty, so beautiful, so arrogant, so foolish. Thought you could tempt power and not pay the price? No, there is a price for everything. Everyone pays a price. My price for power was my looks, my loves, my men. What is your price, pretty? What did you have to give up? Was it worth it? Do you even know what you had to give up? What you lost? Do you seek to avenge yourself on those who've never paid a price for power? Well, that's not my concern, pretty. I've talked enough and I'm hungry. Oh, you don't shudder at that? You don't even move? Are you brave, pretty? Or foolish? Well, you needn't worry. I don't eat cold meat, pretty. And your skin has grown quite cold indeed. Yeah, horribly. The Hag has been an exiled ruler in her own domain for generations. Some legends say that the Hag is actually just the current incarnation of a terrible Anshe bloodline. Whichever legend you believe, they all start with the story of a young Brecht woman of noble birth named Fulda Geisen. Fulda was a first cousin of the then ruler of Grabentoad, the regent Mordan Forgal. She was active at court, and those chronicles that still speak of her, mainly those from Drachenward, say that she was both beautiful and intelligent, if somewhat haughty. Growing up in Grabentoad, she learned to use her looks and her intelligence to her advantage. She made many allies among the nobles, many of whom resented their regent, Mordan, because of his youth and untried valor. But Mordan was not blind. He saw Fulda's growing influence and he found a solution. There was a small, unsettled province to Grabentoad's east, claimed by both Grabentoad and Drachenward, but neither pushed the matter. Peasants from both domains hunted and fished in the mountains, and shipwrights took lumber from the region. So he was eager, Mordan that is, eager to expand his holdings, but Drachenward was a strong neighbor with a friendly region, and Corden, as the region was called, was hardly worth a war. But Mordan saw a way to gain the area without a fight, and to solve another problem. He sent heralds to Erech of Drachenward and his son, Kurel. He proposed a marriage between Fulda and Kurel as a bond between our two friendly realms. Mordan hinted that Corden would be an excellent bride price, and he would send 2 of his best ships as a dowry. Erech and Kurel agreed, for Erech was old and ready to resign his regency, and Kurel was unmarried. Fulda apparently was pleased with the solution as well. What could go wrong? Everything, or even though she would be giving up her influence in Grabentoad, she would be a consort of a larger domain. She had no doubt she could work her wiles in that new land as well. So the marriage happened. The bride and groom took a honeymoon aboard ship, touring the coastlines of Grabentoad and Drachenward. They returned to Drachenward, apparently content, though not for long. Mysteriously, Kurel took ill and died, and it happened so quickly that the court priests and physicers could do nothing. Rumors of foul play would come later, but the court of Drachenward was in shock. Erech, who had planned to abdicate in his son's favor, was heartbroken. His only other heir was his daughter, a mere 6 years old. He would have to rule for at least another decade before taking his well-deserved rest. But there was Fulda, and Fulda was out of her grave clothes. Drachenwardians say, almost before her husband's grave was filled. So she was eager to move on. While that's undoubtedly inaccurate, both Grabentoad and Drachenward had prescribed periods of mourning for their royalty. There is no question that Fulda hardly grieved for her husband's death. Instead, she saw a huge opportunity. In both domains, it was not uncommon for an aging ruler to appoint a guardian regent for a youthful heir. The guardian would rule until their heir was old enough to assume the bloodline and rulership of the domain, and then the guardian would usually become a chief advisor. Now, in most good or lawful kingdoms, this was accepted. Had Fulda waited and bided her time, she might have won her suit for guardianship. But, judging wrongly that Erich was on the verge of death, she asked too soon. Proposing such things so quickly after her husband's death caused only hard feelings and even harder talk. The aged ruler chastised her for her rudeness and asked if she might be more happy in her home domain. Ashamed and enraged, she made preparations to leave. Morden was incensed at both Fulda and Erich. He was less wise than in later days, and instead of sending an appeal to Drachenward, asking that Fulda be allowed to make amends, he sent scathing reprisals filled with insults and accusations. Had Erich been younger, he would have answered the insult directly. Instead, he sent an army into Corden to evict Grabentold settlers and claim the province. This grew in responses until a border war actually erupted. At its end, Grabentold had the worst of it, but Drachenward fared little better. Hatreds seethed on all sides, but neither could act without ruining both domains. Fulda, with the help of a few loyal retainers and some Drachenward nobles, kidnapped the heir and fled to Corden. There, she planned to rendezvous with her cousin's forces and bargain with her father-in-law for the area. Fulda wanted revenge on Erich and a return to prominent position back in Grabentold's court. The move horribly backfired. When he heard of his cousin's boastful report, Morden was horrified. A duel was his way of avenging himself, and if not a duel, a war was acceptable. Kidnapping innocent children certainly wasn't going to fly, so and doing that, just wasn't the right way to go about things. So he commanded Fulda to return the heir unharmed and to present herself for punishment. He sent apologies to Erich, assuring him that he would do everything to get the child back unharmed. When Fulda heard that she was to return to court in disgrace, she panicked and fled with the child into the mountains. What happened to the young heir of Drachenward is unknown to this day, likely just killed from exposure. Fulda herself escaped pursuit and hid away. During this time, her heart twisted with paranoia and hatred and evil, and she became transformed into the Anshe known as the Hag. So at some point she must have had either already had or came into contact with Azrai bloodline. Since that time, Drachenward and Grabentold have not seen peace. While no wars have been fought, skirmishes and disputes occur with regular frequency. Treaties have been signed over the years only to establish efforts to destroy the Hag. Distrust and old enmities have unfortunately always arisen to break the peace. The Hag herself enjoys goading the two sides against one another, and she uses her powers to throw up nets in her mountains to trap the unwary scouts and messengers, and her illusions assault both Drachenward and Grabentold. Occasionally, she'll capture folk from either domain, and send them home mad with fear, sick with poison, and telling tales of horror and depravity. Any children that come into the Hag's clutches are never seen again. So there you have it. And we covered the realm in the Brecht coverage as well, and obviously Grabentold and Drachenward as well, and all the issues there. But so from the DM's perspective, right, this is always that other antagonist that is always going to be causing hardships for either domain should you be running that, but also should make its presence felt in different ways, just in the unease between the realms, and just the known fact that she is there and is a very real danger to those realms. And stories of adventurers maybe going out to kill her, but then disappearing should be cause for concern. But you have that allure, of course, of what adventurers are doing, right? Chasing down big monsters, slaying them, getting the fame from that. Maybe there was tons of loot, who knows what. But she is a very, very real threat, but should not be underestimated. So let's jump in and look at her. So intelligence level 18, so genius level intellect, mainly active during the day, an omnivore, certainly considered chaotic evil, pretty fast movement, is considered large, armor class of -2, again the old system here, so probably bump that up to a 22, in 5e, is how I would run it, but everybody can do things differently. Comes with a pool of 90 hit points, is pretty good. Saves as a 15th level wizard. Thaco doesn't exist anymore, but her current attacks are 2 with weapons or 6 with multiple claws and bites. Right, very dangerous. By weapon type or the physical attacks from her, but she's got d6, 2 of those, right, or 2d4 times 4, and then +8 for strength on the claws, right? So pretty nasty to deal with in any case. Decent amounts of damage, and she can attack multiple times, multiple things as well, and that'd be formidable enough. But she is got quite a few magical abilities and stuff here. So special attacks, there's poison in her spells. No special defenses though, so and also no magical resistance. Interestingly enough, morale when it was still being used, right? So basically champion level morale, really not going to run. Has a pretty solid Azrai bloodline, 39. You'd think it'd be a little bit higher, but still more than potent enough. Comes with several blood abilities as well. And again, check out our coverage on those, but you'll see that again, she's got quite the array of tools at her disposal. She's got alertness, so good luck sneaking up on her. Animal affinity, blood form, enhanced sense, causes fear, has long life. As an ability, major regeneration has a great ability, and just regeneration. So it's going to be tough to kill her. So that pool of 90 hit points is really going to stretch much further, and pretty much top tier stats as well. So a strength of 20. So all kinds of modifiers there. So by themselves, her attacks, the base die used isn't that great, but then you add the strength modifiers onto things, and it gets pretty nasty pretty quickly. Intelligence level is 18, as we saw. Dexterity's at 19. Wisdom of 12. Constitution at 22. And then charisma of 11. So again, lots of good stats, if not great in some cases, right? And here she has access to a ton of spells as well. So she casts spells as a 15th level wizard, so potent enough on top of everything else. And the ones she has memorized, you might need to change some if anything's different between editions. But we start off with Alarm, Charm Person, Grease, Magic Missile, Sleep. She can cause darkness, 15-foot radius, has ESP, Flaming Sphere, Stinking Cloud and Web, Blink, Dispel Magic, Hold Person, Lightning Bolt, Non-Detection, Charm Monster, Edward's Black Tentacles, Hallucinatory Terrain, Shadow Monsters, Wizard Eye, Cone of Cold, scary stuff, right? Hold Monster, Shadow Door, Summon Shadow, Transmute Rock to Mud or its reverse. Getting into 6th level now, Programmed Illusion, Shades. She can Shadow Walk as a 7th level spell, which is where she caps out there at 7th level, only 7th level. But then being Birthright, right? She has a Realm. She can also cast Realm spells, and we've covered those separately as well. Again, very scary stuff. But she does only know some of them, not all of them, thankfully. But she has a Dispel Realm magic, so very relevant for if you are running a domain and playing Birthright that way. If you do manage to get some Realm spells cast, this would be a great source of confusion to add to the DM, since she can dispel that. So if players are investing time and resources into doing that, and then kind of having their spells kind of just periodically not work, great source of confusion, and maybe getting at why that's happening would cause some interesting adventuring possibilities or actions for the players running those domains. She can scry, of course, makes perfect sense, which is how she's always able to play the realms off each other, but also has subversion. So very powerful stuff there, more subtle spells on the realm side to go with a lot of the just firepower she has as a wizard, and then just the physical abilities. So once a beautiful woman, she became a monster in only a few short years. The blood of Azrai does run deep, and her heinous acts against the most innocent creatures awakened her bloodline's evil potential and exposed her inner evil in the ugliness of the hag. So basically, here's some more abilities. Because of her horrific appearance, all who see her must save versus petrification or flee in horror from her for 2d6 rounds. Hirelings and henchmen must make morale checks immediately at a -4 penalty, even if they do save. This check or saving throw occurs only upon the first viewing of the hag, not later confrontations. She can wield weapons, often those taken from fallen foes. A report had her using a two-handed sword in one hand, while another said she had a long sword and a dagger like a ranger. She always has at least a dagger, so that'd be frightening enough, right? With her strength of 20, and then being as formidable as she is, here's a two-handed sword and the modifier that goes with being strength 20 and multiple attacks. Oh, and then we're going to start casting crazy level wizard spells and other stuff too. So, and just her, top tier armor class and hit point pool as well. She is not without her own natural weapons. Her lower body no longer has legs, but consists of a mass of very dangerous snakes. These can make up to 4 attacks per round, so on top of her already like 6 attacks potentially, if she's using the claws and bites. So you got all kinds of crazy combinations there. And on top of everything else, one or more opponents as well. Bite from those snakes does normal damage, but bitten characters have to save versus poison at a -2, or fall into a deep nightmare-ridden coma, which is even more frightening because should she dispose of everybody, she's obviously just going to eat them or do other unspeakable things to them, right? A character sleeps for a number of hours equal to 24 minus his con score. At that time, a successful system shock roll allows him to awake. Unsuccessful rolls result in death. Yikes, right? A survivor of the hag's poisons wakes up feeling tired and looking pale. For 1 week, unless a neutralized poison and remove curse are used on him, he performs all actions at a -2 modifier from lack of energy and focus. Poison victims are usually taken back to the hag's lair and tormented until they die, or inexplicably let go to wander back to known lands in a daze to recover or die soon after. So while she might not have like the raw power, again, just of, let's say, the Gorgon, since we did that video recently, she's no slouch, right? Just the physical attacks plus the snakes and everything. We can go from, basically a combination of either between that and weapons and claws and stuff. She goes from like 6 to possibly 10 attacks with that. But then again, just the firepower essentially of a 15th level wizard as well. So very, very scary. So parties definitely need to be suitably equipped. The realm name, as we saw, the Hag's Domain, obviously not for PCs. It's just a single province. It has a level 5 source in the domain, so she's again going to be able to cast all the realm spells she needs. But its location is entirely unknown. There's no other holdings controlled by her, since there's no trade or law for her to control. She has a decent amount of regency accumulated and stored up, and basically 2 gold bars accumulated, which is just from what she loots from adventurers and other people who foolishly wander into her domain. There is no army in the conventional sense, but basically all the serpents of the domain respond to her will, which she could then probably use to spy on people entering as well. She uses her magical powers to entrap, bewilder, and charm adventurers, and she may have servitors from the Shadow Worlds, though that's not quite sure how that would be, as if she needed more tools at her disposal. So the hag, so recent reports state that she somehow managed to enslave a nobleman of Drakenward named Orin Hawk and his entourage, and they now guard the northern border of her domain. Orin is or was a ranger of some ability, now uses his skills in her service. There have been, and still are, others over the years who serve the hag willingly or unwillingly, most likely unwillingly. A real quick aside, too, we do have a review of it up on our Patreon channel, but one of the Birthright novels is called The Hag's Contract, which, although it's probably the weakest of the novels for Birthright, the parts where where she does take, or where they encounter the hag, and just all the interactions with her are absolutely fantastic, and that really gives you an idea of how to present the hag should your players encounter her. So worth getting just for that. Finally here, the domain is basically little more than forest-blanketed mountains. Several known hunters' camps or long-abandoned settlements are shown on the map. Sometimes they are used by brave folk who dare to venture into the hag's domain, and at other times they're used by the hag herself as temporary lairs. The hag has many layers in her domain, and she hides treasures throughout the province to tempt treasure hunters into her clutches. Where her central lair lies is unknown. She is wily and evil and doesn't reveal secrets easily. Yeah. So, again, perfect fodder there for the DM to, the players definitely shouldn't stumble on her central layer, but maybe the DM kind of baits the players into that as far as, oh, we've discovered one of her layers, came away relatively unscathed. Maybe we're going to go back for more or try and actually hunt her down. And eventually the players might overextend themselves and then confront her directly, and that should be a formidable challenge. So players definitely will need to be a party that's really equipped to deal with everything she can do, which is going to be hard given her physical abilities, but then also her magical abilities plus just the other unnatural abilities she has. So very nasty stuff. Definitely someone who can remove curses and poison, if not multiple characters. But yeah, the hag is a fun one, guys, especially if you're playing in that area with the Brights. This is one of your main tormentors, especially on that side of the Brecht territories. So anything in Graven Toad, Draken Ward, etc. But even some of the boss territories that are relatively close, there's potential there. But one of the more devious, wily Anche out there, but also surprisingly frightening as far as encountering her and trying to fight against her. So let us know your thoughts on the hag, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.